Here we look over the vast studios of 20th Century Fox. Within its walls, great motion pictures are being made, with all the skill and artistry that genius and money can devise. But reels of film do not become great entertainment until they're actually screened before theatre audiences. That is why the theatre and the theatre staff are so vitally important to the ultimate enjoyment of every motion picture. Faulty service and inefficient staff work can spoil the appreciation of any audience. Night and day, in every city, in every state of the Commonwealth, hundreds of thousands of people are entertained in 140 Hoyts theatres. Every week, these people look forward with eager expectation to their night at the movies. For most of them, it's the biggest, most thrilling event of the week. These people are our guests, and this film has been made to impress upon Hoyt staffs everywhere the importance of friendly, knowledgeable, and individual service, receiving each patron with the same warm courtesy and attention we give to personal friends in our homes.
Where have you been? I didn't think you'd ever get here.
We didn't think we'd ever get here either. No, I'm sorry, Joan. We missed the bus.
Oh, don't give me that. What have you been doing since I saw you last?
Well, among other things, we saw that show you told us about. Yes. You may be in the picture business, darling, but you're not the best judge of movies.
Don't tell me you didn't enjoy the show I sent you to. Everyone's raving about it. Well, the picture was all right, but... Oh, well, maybe you weren't in the mood.
In the mood? I was burnt up. Nobody seemed to care two hoots whether we saw the picture or not. For instance, when we got to the theatre, we didn't even know what was on.
We thought we'd come to the wrong program. We couldn't tell from the signs which was coming from which was now showing. Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Wednesday week, Saturday week, Saturday matinee, coming. But where's the picture we came to see?
Ah, here's the commissionaire. Why not ask him? He's the man who should know. Well, yes. Yes, he's not sure, but he thinks it's now showing. A bright, attentive girl, this. Well, anyway, she never lets business interfere with her knitting. She may make mistakes with the change, but she's never known to drop a stitch. And she should worry. Strange, not many people around for a special program. It's a nice theatre, too. But did you ever see such a welcome as this? No wonder business is on the skids.
Poor darlings, but it serves you right. That couldn't happen at a Hoyts theatre.
That's right. It shouldn't happen in a Hoyts theatre. This is the heart of every Hoyts theatre, the box office. Here the patron has his first contact, his first real impression, good or bad, of our theatre. Here he senses that systematic, streamlined service that should be synonymous with the name of Hoyts. No matter how big the queue, there's no panicking here at pressure periods. The cashier has personality. She also has the technique of the interested approach.
Interested approach, eh? That's something I didn't get.
Ah, but this girl makes it her job to make us forget ours. Don't miss my meaning. Cashiering doesn't mean mashiering. It means a ready smile and a way of speaking that shows interest but not intensity. Listen.
Good evening.
Yes, those vital first two words, good evening. Accuracy with change, with tickets. The main aim of every cashier should be to sell the higher priced seats, but not at the cost of exploiting the patron. Tonight, the stalls are nearly full. So our cashier says...
I'm sorry, but there are plenty of seats in the lounge.
I can see she tries to sell tickets, not just issue them.
That's so. Now watch this patron as she arrives later than the promised time. Her seats have been sold, but this smart cashier tries to sell her other seats. Sometimes difficult, especially if the theatre is near capacity. Now look at the result. These cancellations are not in the aisle like the original, but Every seat in a Hoyts theatre is a good one.
Yes, one good smile deserves another. And it doesn't cost a penny to surprise patrons with courtesy and personal attention.
This is the right time to remember that a voice can smile as well as a face. Here is our telephonist. To tell our story of a smiling voice, this will be all you'll see of its owner. Here's a potential patron at his home phone.
Good evening, Hoyts Regent Theatre. Would you mind holding the line a moment, please?
He doesn't mind in the least. Ah, but how often have I heard that click as the phone is lifted off the hook and we wait while idle chit-chat filters through.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to book 2 seats in the lounge for next Saturday night, please.
What name, please?
Brown.
What initial, Mr. Brown?
L. L. Brown.
And would you mind picking up the tickets as early as possible before the program commences, please, Mr. Brown?
Yes, of course.
Good evening. Thank you.
Most voices get our goat. This one gets our vote. Of course, each theatre has its own particular time for picking up reserves. See how she carefully notes patron's name on tickets. Why?
Why? Well, we don't want Mr. L. Brown to get Mr. B. Brown's seats. That is the first link in the well-organized chain of Hoyts service known as teamwork. Patron's first impression is favorable. Now, everything depends upon keeping him in that happy state until he is seated. That ticket changes hands. It goes from cashier to patron, from patron to ticket taker.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Every staff member is a link in an unbroken chain of hospitality, from cash desk to door to Dunlopillow. But let's link up again with our diplomatic ticket taker.
Ah, here we are. No, it's that terrible person I saw in the other theatre. Surely this is not a Hoyts house?
Of course not. This ticket taker doesn't make a doormat out of patrons. Each one is politely handled. Each is an individual problem, yet to each is applied a well-tried formula.
That interested approach. And I like that smile. The sort of smile that spells service. And I like that vital thank you.
Notice the accuracy and speed that goes into the checking of every ticket, and how each ticket goes straight into that box.
No lounging or gossiping with patrons or pals.
And the ticket taker doesn't leave the door. The manager is signaled if required. The door is one spot never under any circumstances to be left unguarded. Watch how the speed and flow of patrons into the theatre is regulated.
Ah, hold up. Let's slip inside and see why. The usherettes are finding it's the pace that kills.
An usherette can go so fast and no faster.
And surely she should never run.
She should walk at all times, suiting her speed to the patron. She may walk a little faster and try to speed him up, gradually increasing her own speed.
This lass looks brighter than the one who showed me into the wrong seats last night. There's nothing upsets me more.
Every Hoyts usherette should learn accuracy via the box plan.
The first thing to do is to get to know your box plan.
Every good usherette knows the box plan, knows every seat, learns every aisle lettering, knows the number and location of each exit, knows the location of each fire extinguisher and how to use it, the location of fire hoses, where the barrier ropes separate each price section. The box plan, too, shows how to close up rows to create doubles where only singles were before.
And this is what is meant by dressing the house. Spreading patrons over the greatest possible area.
Yes, the careless usherette usually takes the line of least resistance, seating patrons nearest the aisle.
Result? A badly dressed house.
And she's always one jump ahead of those section jumpers.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your Hoyts Theatre.
Hey, monitor, watch your sound!
Just another reason why business and pleasure don't mix. Hey, what's happening? You're blinding us.
Someone misusing a torch. Remember, a torch should never be used as a seat indicator. Merely indicate the entrance to a row.
As a patron, I much prefer the torch beam kept down and away from my eyes.
The torch is the most important part of every usherette's equipment. Keep it properly serviced with globes and batteries. Don't leave it where it can be stolen. see that it is properly stored.
Debits? What's all this?
Not very nice, is it? Smoking? Well, I ask you. Jewellery. Leave that to the vamps on the screen. And there's such a thing as being too familiar on the job.
Hi, you good? Good-o, Madge.
Doesn't sound so good-o, though. Mr. or Miss gives dignity to your job.
Clicking fingers or hissing to attract attention distracts patrons and disturbs their enjoyment. Don't settle arguments yourself. When arguments develop, call the manager.
No, we haven't got any tickets.
Well, those seats are reserved. Would you stand up in the aisle?
No, certainly not. We've been here for about 10 minutes already. It's perfectly ridiculous, isn't it?
I'm very sorry, madam. If you stand up, I'll take you to see the manager.
That little phrase will save a lot of trouble for the manager and wear and tear on everybody's nerves.
Always report to your manager any unusual mishap, disturbance, or accident. And it goes without saying that friendly staff courtesy at a moment like this is doubly appreciated and long remembered by the patron in distress. But stop, Mr. Commissionaire. Let's have a look at you. That's the way to wear a uniform, an example to the rest of the staff. Uniform cleaned and pressed, well groomed with regulation haircut, and all the trimmings. Out front, he's the focal point for questions any of you may be asked. When the program starts, when it ends, who are the stars, what are the prizes? He represents in his uniform the management and the company. This film is not intended to teach experienced and highly efficient staff, but it is intended to point out the need for maintaining a high degree of personalized service in every Hoyts theatre from Perth to Brisbane. In the words of our managing director, Mr. Ernest Turnbull, modern theatres everywhere, whether in America, England or Australia, must have courteous and efficient staff service at all times. Just one person slacking will let down the good work and good name of the entire staff and endanger the reputation of this, the greatest circuit of theatres in the Southern Hemisphere. Let us all remember that these people are our guests. They're outside now, but once they cross the threshold, their enjoyment rests in your hands. They are guests in your house and our house. Let's turn our patrons' leisure into real pleasure and make Hoyts the place to go always.
While we're on the subject of the evolution of the Walterman, some of you may remember a couple of hundred years ago, no, well, I don't suppose many of you would, but anyhow, a couple of hundred years ago, our great-great-grandpapas and our great-great-grandmamas used to take their dancing very, very seriously, and they would walk about in very stately fashion on the ballroom floor to the strains of an old-fashioned minuet, like this. after about 100 years, somebody had a little brainwave and thought they'd speed things up a bit. And the result was the development of the old-fashioned German waltz. You'll remember, for instance, our old friend, the skaters. Now coming up to modern times, that much maligned person, Mr. Jazz, tried his hand at the waltz. And a very good job he made of it too. Listen to this one. And our last example will be the Valse Brillante of the French Opera School.
Do you remember when Cecil B. DeMille's Cleopatra premiered in Melbourne in 1934? Those unforgettable movie balls. The Saturday matinees for children at Hoyts suburban theatres.
Your comic strip and radio hero leaps to the serial screen. and grapple with a mad scientist intent on harnessing the power of the sun.
When David Coffell made live-action commercials for screening in cinemas.
WL1313. This telephone number brings you one of the most unusual services in Australia. Service in the Tanner manner. Wherever you live in Sydney, a phone call will bring a car to your door. A car that will take you to Tanner's of Eastwood, the home of home appliances. This service has ended those hours of searching from shop to shop. For here, under one roof, you can see every type and every make of household appliance. You'll be agreeably surprised at the personal interest Tanner's take in your requirements. At Tanner's, you may inspect the greatest display of refrigerators in city or suburbs. Modern washing machines eliminate Monday blues, saving hours of time.
Those were the days when all the important events in the Australian cinema industry were recorded by the Movietone and CineSound cameras. The spectacular premieres, the theatre openings, and the industry personnel who brought the 20th century's most enduring medium of entertainment to local cinema screens. Spare a moment now and come back with us through the years as we relive some of those events and remember the pioneers of our great cinema industry.
Ladies and gentlemen, I must confess to feeling what I hope is a pardonable pride in being somewhat responsible for this presentation this evening of an Australian picture program. I sincerely hope, for the sake of those ladies and gentlemen who have helped me so much in the production of these pictures, with that initiative and that resource which I consider is so inherent in the true Australian, that they will be really successful. And that you will agree that the time has at last arrived when Australian pictures made by Australians for the Australian public is at last an accomplished fact.
State Theatre, Sydney, premiere of CineSound's newest achievement, that glamorous motion picture, Lovers and Luggers. Flowing through is actor Ronald Whelan. There's juvenile James Raglan, new Australian star. And here's director Ken Hall, directing himself. It's a proud night for Director Hall, premiere of his greatest picture yet. Finally, the charming Australian girl, Shirley Ann Richards. And let's hope Hollywood isn't listening in to Shirley Ann so soon. We want to see more of Shirley Ann. She helped to put the lovers into Lovers and Luggers.
Sydney captures the glamour of Hollywood as eager, curious crowds gather in Market Street outside the State Theatre for the gala world premiere of Australia's epic film, Smithy, made by CineSound for Columbia Pictures. Among the celebrities is the lovely Ann Richards, back from Hollywood on a flying visit. Her mother is with her, and she talks with Charles Chauvel, well-known Australian producer. The stars of Smithy meet a crush of excited admirers. Ron Randall, Smithy himself, and Muriel Steinbeck, who plays the role of Lady Kingsford Smith. Jimmy Mollison Wright and Captain P.G. Taylor, who plays himself in the film. Greeting the premiere is Mr. Norman Ridge, chairman of directors of Greater Union Theatres and CineSound. Sister Kenny and Warren Fisher, Smithy Jr., with the Australian director of Smithy, Ken G. Hall. With Mrs. Hall are members of the cast, including John Tate, Ulm, at left. Cadets of the Air Training Corps provide a guard of honor, and it's a big moment when the Governor-General and Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Gloucester, arrive at the theatre. The royal couple are received by Major J.J. Collins, manager of the State Theatre. Among those who received the Duke and Duchess are Mr. Norman Ridge and the producer of Smithy, Mr. Nick Perry. Mr. and Mrs. Hall, Ron Randall and Muriel Steinbeck were later presented to their Royal Highnesses. Ron Randall and Muriel Steinbeck are the two young Australians who almost overnight have stepped dramatically into the film spotlight. The Duchess wears a mink jacket over her gold brocade and midnight blue gown as she discusses the film with Messrs. Ridge and Perry. It's a gala night with a real pre-war flavor and a fine tribute to an Australian film. But more than that, it's a tribute to a very great Australian, Sir Charles Kingsford Smith.
Sydney's State Theatre, venue for the 21st Sydney Film Festival. And it's nostalgia time, as the festival features the 1932 movie Love Me Tonight, starring Maurice Chevalier. Guest of honor is famed Hollywood director and the man who made the feature film, Reuben Mamoulian, who's invited to immortalize his visit by placing his palms in fresh cement in the foyer of the theatre. Barry Humphries was there, and from the Greater Union Organisation, Sir Norman and Lady Ridge arrived at the theatre with their party. Director of the festival, David Stratton, adds his palm print to the others. The Prime Minister, Mr. Whitlam, is another guest of honour.
And now at the State Theatre, the world premiere. It's a miserable, wet night, but that doesn't stop a big crowd gathering, and the red carpet is rolled out for the stars and distinguished guests. Sir Norman Ridge is among community leaders who attend. Barry Creighton, who plays in the film. Ed Devereaux, who's praised by the critics for his performance. Car after car arrives. John O'Grady, no doubt anxious to see how his book is transferred to the screen. Melbourne TV personality Graham Kennedy, who has a guest spot in the film. The premiere is in aid of the Royal Life-Saving Society of Australia. Claire plays the female lead, and Walter Chiari himself. Now the stage is set and the premiere begins. A glittering world premiere for an Australian comedy, the film everyone's been waiting to see, They're a Weird Mob.